Well, hey, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the channel for this installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open. The floor is yours. What do you guys want to talk about here? That's what we're here to discuss in this wonderful world of movies, movie news, TV, and streaming. My name, of course, is John Campea. It's awesome to have you guys joining me here. I'm also joined in the studio by Ray Orr.
Hello.
Oh, there's a story there. Right beside him is Jonathan Voico.
Hey,
Ray, what's going on? Why so glum?
Okay, I gotta.
why you cry?
So
you cry?
this whole lunch time, I was planning to get my work done. So during lunch, I could start this fishing again because I've been playing this fishing game on Xbox. It's called Call of the Wild, the Angler, whatever. It's some like relaxing game. Anyways, in order to cast or reel, you have to hold on to the L button. And my L button was getting stuck. So the whole lunchtime, I was trying to fix the damn thing so I could go fishing. And now it's fixed. But now we're going back to work. So I'm going to have to fish tomorrow.
In today's installment of First World Problems.
Come on, man.
He's got to feed his family. He's got to
They put
fish.
a whole bunch of junk in the L trigger to soft.
I still can't believe there's a fishing video game.
Of course there is.
They put this junk on the L to soften it, so it's like, you don't hear it. But that junk, if it wears off, it has that sticky stuff. You know
what? Is it a PS controller or an Xbox controller?
Xbox. You know when you get a new credit card, right? And they stick it to that piece of paper?
Yeah.
You know that sticky substance behind it?
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. And the whole lunch, I was just trying to scrape it away, because you can't get it wet. There's a circuit board in there.
You can teach a man to fish, but you can't guarantee the L button's
I
gonna
wanted
work.
to fish. Level 8, baby.
Anyway.
Sorry. Sorry, man.
Our problems for the day.
I know.
Good to have you guys here. A bunch of stuff we're going to talk about. The stuff that you guys want to talk about. By the way, there's two different ways. If you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address here on Open Mic, there's two different ways you can get it addressed. The first way is you can send it in anytime, 24/7 by going to our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Or if you are watching live right now and you'd like to get a topic or a question answered, you can just go ahead and use the super chat feature. And if your topic or questions are appropriate to be read on our show, we will address them here. Now, before we get into it though, something that's kind of caught my attention. The writer's strike and the actor strike is going on, and a lot of big issues on the table that, the studios got to get their heads around and address. I think there are a couple of issues that maybe the Actors Guild and the Writers Guild are, maybe they're not being completely realistic about, but I'm on board with them for about 90% of the stuff that they're asking for, I think is reasonable. But it creates some interesting dynamics. Like, for instance, a lot of people have been writing into me this weekend and saying, well, wait, John, there's this thing, the Venice Film Festival and now the Toronto International Film Festival. The actors and writers aren't supposed to be promoting their work, but they're out there at these film festivals, big celebrities going to the film festivals, hyping up their movies. And, of course, we've gone over this. Certain films are being given waivers. So some actors and writers can go out and produce and promote their work and go and make movies, and others can't. And, it's a complicated issue. It's a complicated issue. Well, I thought this one was rather interesting. Now, last week, as I was getting ready to head out for the weekend, me and Ann, I saw a story that Drew Barrymore is bringing back her talk show. And the story that I was reading was that she's going to be adhering to all the rules that SAG and the WGA have, and she's going to bring it back. Now, a couple things I want to make clear here. The two things about me you should know. Number one, while I like Drew Barrymore, I'm not a particular Drew Barrymore fan. Like, it's not like I got to go, when's Drew's next movie coming out? Like, I like her, but I'm not a particular Drew Barrymore fan. The second thing you should know about me is I went, Drew Barrymore has a talk show? I've clearly never seen it, and I didn't even really know that there was a Drew Barrymore talk show, but it's fine. So those are two things you need to know about me before I kind of talk about my take on this. Now, a headline came out today in Variety that Drew is getting attacked and slammed by Hollywood, or certain people in Hollywood. Let's bring that up, Jonathan, for bringing back her show during strike. And some people are calling it gross. She's calling her a scab, saying what she's doing is incredibly disappointing. and I thought all that was really interesting. Though there was one person who was quoted here. There's several big quotes, but one in here I thought was interesting. That they put in the Variety article says, since the strike prohibits studios sending them out to actually promote work, I plan to heavily side-eye every single famous actor friend of Drew Barrymore who comes to sit on her couch and chat about skincare, their childhoods, while their fellow union members are out picketing. Kate, this kind of highlights a part of me that's going, there's some hypocrisy here. There's absolutely some hypocrisy here. Because, like, for example, saying, because, actors right now, actors and writers are not, and this is totally fair and totally reasonable, are not allowed to go out there right now and promote movies and TV shows, right? Because they're on strike. Then why are all these actors and famous people at Toronto International Film Festival and Venice? Again, some projects have been given waivers, whatever. But she's saying, well, I'm going to give you a side eye if you just go on and talk about other stuff. But meanwhile, all these conventions are going on around the country, and celebrities are allowed to go to these conventions, and they're allowed to get paid to go to these conventions. And we've covered some of these topics before. These celebrities and actors just can't talk at the conventions about specific upcoming work that they have. They can talk about growing up. They can talk about their approach to acting. They can even talk about some of their favorite memories on sets, of older stuff that they've done. They can do all that kind of stuff, but they can't talk about projects going on right now. Okay. And by the way, I'm all for that. I think that's a great thing that SAG and the WGA are allowing their members to do, because it just makes sense. So, but my question is, if that's okay, and actors can go out to conventions and get on stages in front of thousands of people and collect money for doing it and just talk about stuff other than new projects that they're in. Well, if they can do that, why can't they sit on a couch on a talk show and do the same thing? I just don't completely get that.
A part of me kind of feels like if you're going to go 100, go 100 on it. If you're going to be half, then I don't know. That's where everything gets convoluted, I think. It's like, I think if they all win 100, like really just not, just like did the strike and that's it, like maybe their demands would be taken.
Well, I mean, that's the thing though, right? Like when you don't go 100, that means, and in life, this is true in all of life, that, hey, you know what? You have to acknowledge that there have to be exceptions. Like to every rule in life, there has to be exceptions. There has to be some compromises. But once you got to recognize that once you start introducing compromises, which is fine, but once you start introducing compromises, you got to do the best you can to stay consistent with those compromises. So again, it's like, okay, so it's perfectly fine for actors to go out and do the convention circuit and talk about stuff, but they can't come on thing. And here's the other thing. I don't know how to break this to people, but a talk show doesn't need writers. I'm sorry. Anybody with 2 ounces of common sense know that talk shows don't need writers. Can they benefit with writers? Absolutely. Do good skilled writers make a talk show, especially when it comes to opening monologues and things like that? Can those make shows better? Absolutely. 100%. I am all on board with that. But does a talk show, does 2 people sitting down to have a conversation, can 2 people sitting down where one is interviewing another, does that require writers? And I'm sorry, but the answer, unless you're just sticking your head in the sand and being stupid, the answer to that question is no. You don't. You don't have to have a WGA contracted writer on staff. Now, here's where it gets a little bit sticky. See, under normal circumstances, again, as somebody who has never seen the Drew Barrymore show, okay? So again, I've never seen it. But apparently from what I'm reading, under normal circumstances, the Drew Barrymore show does have a couple of WGA writers on staff to help write with opening monologues and stuff like that, right? Now, when Drew Barrymore says she's starting up her show again, but she's going to do so following all the rules, they're clearly not bringing in people to fill those WGA, because I would be scabbing, right? You don't bring in somebody else to replace those people. You just will have to do your show without them. And if Drew Barrymore just wants to come out and say, guys, thank you everybody for tuning into the show today. Today, I'm excited to be talking to blah, 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 about life and about, their passion and their work and all that kind of stuff, not any new work, and just wants to sit down and talk, then I'm sorry, but what's the problem? And again, I hear all these, and some very, very smart people, by the way. I've been reading some very, very smart people. Like, for instance, there's this one guy who I really like a lot. I don't know how to properly pronounce his last name because I only ever know him as Adam, because Adam ruins everything. Conover?
He used to have a show.
Yeah, well, he's had several shows. He's fantastic,
he's
right?
He's great.
Like Adam, and he's been very passionate online, defending the guild's positions and stuff like that. I love him. I think he's incredibly smart. I think he's articulate. I think he's thoroughly entertaining. I don't always agree with him, but that's what I love. Even when I don't agree with him, I love the way he presents a train of thought, the way he presents information. He's fantastic. I respect this guy a huge amount. But with him, I got to disagree. Like he said this too. He goes, "This is incredibly disappointing. Drew Barrymore's show employs WGA writers who are currently on strike. She is choosing to go back on the air without them and forcing her guests." That's not true. Nobody's forcing anybody to do anything. "And forcing her guests to cross a picket line. Drew, this harms your writers and all union workers. Please reconsider." And the thing is, I think at some point you have to say, let's apply a little bit of common sense. This is a show that is, again, that I've never watched, but that can go on, and all the other people who work on that show who are not a part of a strike can actually get back to work and they can start earning a living again because the strike has nothing to do with them. But what you have to do is that there's one little piece of your machine that we can do this without for now. And we're not going to scab. We're not going to replace them. We're just going to go on without them and say, we're going to do, because it's just a talk show. Guys, it's just a talk. No offense to people who love talk shows, but it's just a freaking talk show. It's an interview show. Who cares? And I just find there to be a little bit of hypocrisy that these guilds who will hand out these special waivers, and by the way, I am all for the waivers. Don't interpret me as saying I'm against the waivers. I'm all for it because I believe it represents applying some common sense. So I'm cool with the unions handing out waivers, but why is everybody yelling and screaming about a talk show that does not need writers just to do its core function and is going to put dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people who have nothing to do with the strike but are out of work because of the strikes, and now they get to go back and keep earning a living? Why is that such a huge problem when at the same time these guilds are handing out waivers? Oh, Adam Driver, you got a big movie out? Yeah, you go to the Venice Film Festival and you go promote that movie. Oh, you guys got a big movie coming out at the Toronto International Film Festival? Yeah, here's a waiver. You guys go and promote that movie. I just find there to be a certain degree of lack of common sense, some just level-headed thinking, and a bit of hypocrisy that people would whip and quite frankly, virtue signaling, a phrase I hate, by the way, but there's a little bit of that going on here. So you got all these big movie premieres going on with these big movie stars and all this kind of stuff, and that's fine. But you got a show that employs 100 people and maybe 1% of them is a part of one of the guilds, but you're not going to replace their work. You're not going to scab their work. You're just going to do it without their work. And everybody's going to get into a frenzy over that. I find this problematic.
I know what you're saying, but it's like it's the recording or filming of the new episodes. These movies, they've been probably done already. So it's not really going into production. This show's going to
But they're going out promoting the movies, promoting their stuff, and that's something other actors can't do now.
I have a feeling this Drew Barrymore, it could have been anybody that decided this. It's not necessarily Drew or whatever. Anyone could have done this. They would have rained upon them the same way. It's just like, I believe it's to show that, because then it kind of shows that you don't need the people who are striking in order to put on a show.
Well, no,
and they kind of get offended by that.
I don't think, if they are, that's ridiculous, because this isn't like Succession where you need somebody to write a script. this is literally a talk show where you don't need a script. You don't need to, like, again, I completely believe that these talk shows are better with writers.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yes, there's definitely an advantage to that, and they should have them. But let's not be stupid. We all acknowledge that at its core function, two people sitting on a couch talking, just having a conversation, that doesn't require you to have writers on staff to be able to just do the core function of the show.
What's the worst thing that could happen then? Like for the strike, that means Drew Barrymore does a show. People find it actually more entertaining. Oh, they don't need her. Is that the worst thing that could happen? Like for them, like, and then other people go like, you know what? I'm going to try my show without writers.
It could, but I think here's what I think. And this is why I think that the WGA and members of the WGA are being rather ridiculous about this, is because nobody believes that the Drew Barrymore show is going to be better without writers. Nobody. I don't think anybody believes that. I don't think Drew Barrymore thinks that. I don't think anybody thinks that. What I think is, more problematic, again, I think this is just more virtue signaling. Again, I think a lot of these people have to have enough common sense to know this is doing no harm. Drew Barrymore going on with her show without writers and not replacing them, but just without writers, is doing no harm to anybody. But it feels like everybody's got to go on a witch hunt. Again, it just seems so problematic for me when you've got these big movie stars going out promoting big movies at these big international film festivals and other movie stars filming movies. And I get it, waivers, and I agree with waivers. I'm just saying, why can't you just apply a little bit of common sense to this particular situation? Again, a show I couldn't give two squirts of urine about. I don't care about the Drew Barrymore show. I don't watch the Drew Barrymore show. But it just seems like basic common sense. Really? Like, if you got all this anger and you want to aim it at somebody, this is the Trojan horse you want to get angry at? This is the situation that you feel deserves to be the target of your ire, and you have to get on your little fuck crybaby social media soapboxes and use them to hurl insults at somebody? For what? I just don't, to me, it's preposterous.
They were actually saying things about, remember, I think Brad Pitt was going to start doing like some non-production, not like
it's a movie of his that he is not in, but he is the producer of. Yeah.
And they got on him too. I think the whole thing really is just, we need to show solidarity. And when anyone breaks off of that, they don't like it. It's like it shows cracks in whatever they're. Again,
and I agree. And you need in the unions and in the guilds, you got to have solidarity. You got to have that unity. I just think that what Drew Barrymore is doing is not cracking that solidarity and is not cracking that unity. She's going to put dozens of other people back to work in their jobs that have nothing to do with the guilds. They're going to move forward without replacing the WGA writers and just do a regular little talk show that does not need writers. If there was some way that this showed weakness of the union, then I would say, yeah, she shouldn't be doing this. But this is such a non-issue. I just feel like there are some people who are just have so much anger and so much bitterness right now, because everybody's angry and bitter during a strike, right? I don't fault anybody for feeling angry and bitter. I feel angry and bitter. Like everybody does. Writers, actors, studio people, fans, everybody's angry and bitter. But is this really the thing you need to take your anger and bitterness out on? Again, it seems hypocritical to me when there are so many other much more high-profile exemptions being given. I just don't see how this is an issue. But anyway, who am I? What the hell do I know? That's just kind of my 2 cents from an average media fan sitting on the outside looking in who's never once seen an episode of the Drew Barrymore show. All right, anyway, guys, if you guys have any thoughts about that, use the super chat feature, send it in. I'd like to hear some thoughts. I'm sure there's some other, again, guys like Adam, who I completely respect, super intelligent guy, has a different point of view than I do on this. I just happen to disagree, but he's a super smart guy. Maybe you have a different point of view too, but Anyway, that's my kind of rant on that for now. Now let's get to the real business at hand here. Let's get to why we're here, which is to take your thoughts, theories, questions, and topics for Open Mic. So Jonathan, let's get started here. What do we got up first?
First is from IU. John, can you ID this? It's 1980s or prior in color. A group of archaeologists explore a Mayanish jungle and found an alien, brought the alien back to the lab, and it started wreaking havoc. I think they said Amen or something like that in the movie. It's sort of like indie-like. Do you know, does that ring any bells?
80s.
They bring an alien.
They find an alien in the
jungle.
deep jungles.
Did he say Mayan civilization?
Well, I just said Mayan-ish.
Something
so
like that.
know. Tombs and temples.
I mean, I've got like a dozen movies running through my head about things that are similar to that. Tell you what, guys in the live chat, if any of you guys in the live chat have one of that, like my first thought was, what's that Michael Crichton one? You know, the one where they come across the apes, like the intelligent apes.
That one is Congo.
Congo, yeah. So I was thinking Congo, but that's not 80s, and that's not an alien.
Enemy Mine? There's something called Enemy Mine.
No, Enemy Mine is a sci-fi movie that takes place on another planet. That's got Ed Gossett Jr.
I'm just reading from whatever.
Or Louis Gossett Jr., I should say.
If it comes up.
Relic?
Somebody's saying in the Lionheart in the live chat is saying Relic?
Maybe.
Alien
but
from
also,
the
I don't
deep?
know if it'd be 80s because I feel like some of these would have been the 90s, and maybe he's just getting it mixed up. Or she.
I'll put a thought. Just keep checking out the comments section on this video because maybe somebody else will know what you're talking about, man.
Yep.
Good question. All right, what's next?
We got Anonymous. Hey, John, with all the talk of Taylor Swift and concert films, have you seen Talking Heads Stop Making Sense, directed by Jonathan Demme? A24 is doing a 4K master for theaters on September 29th for its 40th anniversary. One of the best of all time. I've seen it. I used to own it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I love the Talking Heads.
I see. I've never been a big Talking Heads fan. Not that I dislike them at all. I've just never been a big Talking Heads guy. What was good about that concert? 40 years?
Yeah. It was 40 years ago. Yeah.
You know what's funny? Last night, okay, let me side thing here. Putri Ariani. All right. I don't know if any of you guys bring this up. Have any of you guys seen, I don't watch America's Got Talent, but I've been following clips on YouTube and stuff like that. Have any of you guys been following this girl? She is this 17-year-old blind Indonesian girl who speaks kind of broken English and might be the single greatest singer I've ever heard.
Wow.
She's nuts. Anyway, she just did...
Let's get nuts.
Yeah, let's get nuts. She just did her quarterfinal. This is her at the court where she sang Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For by U2. Half of it just completely a cappella and some of it with piano. And I've been watching like reaction videos to it and everybody's just crying at just this girl singing, right? Why do I bring this up? The reason I bring this up is because after Ann and I watched it, U2 is my all-time favorite band. And so we started watching some old concert footage of U2. I think the greatest video you can watch is if you do a search on YouTube for Where the Streets Have No Name, Rattle and Hum. And it's the concert footage of them playing in Tempe, Arizona. Or is it, how do you pronounce it? Is it Tempe or Tempe?
Tempe.
Tempe, okay.
Tempe. Yeah.
Tempe, Arizona. It's like the greatest rock performance ever. Is them doing Where the Streets Have No Name, which by the way is my all-time favorite. I think the greatest song ever written. But it just gets your blood pumping. It's just, it's so great. Sorry, just had to go off on a little side note with that. All right, guys, listen, we're just getting started with the questions, but we're going to take a moment here for just a second and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of Open Mic, our friends at MasterClass, and I got them on my feet right now, the great folks at Vessi. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, MasterClass. Guys, you know, as a small business owner, I am finding myself having to be in negotiations all the time, whether it's with new contractors, vendors, or even agencies that represent our company. Now, I don't like to go into these negotiations unarmed, so I found the perfect class on MasterClass, The Art of Negotiation by Chris Voss, a real-life former FBI lead hostage negotiator. Taking this class on MasterClass made me feel a lot more equipped and confident going into all these various negotiations I have to do on a regular basis. With With MasterClass, you can learn from the best to become your best anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. An annual membership starts at just $10 a month, and you get unlimited access to every instructor, thousands of online lessons, exclusive content, insight, and much more. There are over 180 classes to pick from, everything from filmmaking with Martin Scorsese all the way to cooking with the great Gordon Ramsay. In MasterClass, you will find practical lessons that you can apply to your life and work. So guys, get unlimited access to every class, and right now, as a John Campea Show listener, you can get 15% off when you go to masterclass.com/Campea. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off an annual membership. masterclass.com/Campea. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Vessi. Now, like me, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of Vessi, the shoe that claims to be incredibly comfortable and waterproof on top of that. Well, these claims are really interesting to me because as a Canadian who walked around in a lot of snow, and as somebody who likes to go camping and hiking with his wife on the weekends, there's nothing more uncomfortable and horrible than walking around in wet feet. So after receiving my first pair of Vessis and noticing how incredibly good looking the shoes are and how mind-boggling comfortable and flexible they are, the first thing I did was I took them into the backyard to put it to the supreme waterproof test and dipped my feet in my pool. Guys, my feet were bone dry, and like 20 seconds after having them in the pool and I touched them, the shoes themselves were also bone dry. Guys, seriously, these shoes are stupidly comfortable, they look great, and they absolutely lived up to the claim of being waterproof and keeping my feet dry. I absolutely love my Vessi shoes. So guys, if you want shoes that are good looking, are ridiculously comfortable, and on top of all that waterproof, you need to head to vessi.com/Campea and get yourselves a pair today. Go to vessi.com/Campea and get shoes for your best summer yet. And thank you to our friends at MasterClass and Vessi for sponsoring this episode. All right, with that down, guys, let's get back to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up next?
Garden Variety Vagabond says, as an NCIS fan, I've been tracking NCIS Sydney since it was first announced a year and a half ago in February of 2022, though I have not heard any familiar names, so I'm keeping my expectations in check.
I saw one face. I can't remember the name of the actor. He's the guy from Office Space that says, yeah, I'm going to need you to come on in and work this weekend.
Wasn't he in The Flash as well, the dad? Wasn't he the dad?
No. That's a ship. That's a different guy.
Right. I know what you're talking about.
But he is in the new hottest show in the world that got canceled 4 years ago, Suits. He's a recurring character in Suits. Yeah, really interesting again, and it's making a jump from just playing it in Paramount Plus International to now being put on CBS to fill in content with all the strikes going on. It's kind of an interesting move. All right, what's next?
Mac writes, at the end of Ahsoka episode 4, when it cuts to the credits after revealing Anakin and the music starts playing, if you watch it with subtitles, it says Vader's theme.
Yes, it does. We talked about that the other day. They were playing Vader music behind it, which suggests that maybe, this manifestation of Anakin is not the one that you think it might be.
Yeah, that was what I felt.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. That's the part of the episode that a lot of people get excited about. I think it's the dumbest part of the episode. I think the rest of the episode's fantastic. I just think look, guys, we just had Vader and Anakin back again in Obi-Wan. It's not as if, oh my God, we haven't seen Anakin. And so he was just in Obi-Wan. And it was actually a really important narrative part of the story of Obi-Wan. I honestly felt like, now we'll see what happens tomorrow with episode 5, right? That could completely alleviate all this. I'm just saying that last little part with Anakin just showing up with the bad CGI face, but who cares? Luke's CGI face was bad too, but it was still an awesome moment. Doesn't take away from that. But all that was pure naked fan service. That's all it was. Ooh, cameo! Like, we get so excited about cameos. But anyway, I thought the rest of the episode was fantastic. So I'm really excited about tomorrow's episode to see, will episode 5 follow up on episode 4 and keep that momentum going, or will it fall back to the kind of disappointing nature of episodes 1, 2, and 3? I think, I don't know. I got a feeling this show has found its stride, and I'm looking forward to big things on episode 5. I'm looking forward to big things for these final 4 episodes. So we'll find out tomorrow if we're right or wrong. All right, what's next?
Was the actor's name Gary Cole?
Yes, that's him. Thank you.
See? I got it.
All right, what's
10
next?
minutes later.
Keith Williams says, had to drop by and give Jonathan his due credit. Well, thank you. Certainly agree about the lack of intelligent slapstick. Speaking of intelligent, have you all seen Kung Pao Enter the Fist? Absolutely. LOL laugh. Thanks, gang. And no worries on the name. It's Queese. See, I was going to say Queese or Keese, and I went with Keese. Sorry.
I would have said, I'm terrible. I would have said Quicey. So you were way closer than I would have been. What's it again? Kung Pao Legend of the Fist?
Yeah, I remember.
Oh yeah. And actually, I remember we came across it as we were scrolling through like a library of movies or whatever, and that was there. And Anne apparently loves that movie. I saw it like once.
I thought it was bad.
It definitely has its moments. I hate when he fights the cow or whatever. That was just kind of stupid. But there's definitely some moments there where like he wakes up and the guy's like, I tattooed face with an arrow on your face. Why would anyone need to know where your face is? It's just stupid things like that just killed me.
It has got some, I'm not going to pretend like I love the movie, but it's definitely got its moments. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher writes in part 2 or 2 parts. Chris, you said
who's not here, by the way.
Yeah, just got BritBox, and we were talking about British murder mysteries. Recommendation: Death in Paradise, a dramedy about a stuck-up British DCI who gets reassigned, exiled a la Hot Fuzz, to the fictional colony of the East Indies called St. Marie. Really fun, locked room, impossible timing. Agatha Christie style mystery. I actually always imagined what an American remake would look like. An FBI agent sent to run the field office in Hawaii or be a liaison in Puerto Rico.
Oh, I see it.
We've seen movies and TV shows with that sort of concept though, right? With like a fish out of water story, like somebody sent to run a whatever. We've seen those sorts of things before. I'm glad you brought up Hot Fuzz though. You know, whenever people think of Edgar Wright, particularly in his partnership with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, we all go, rightfully so, to Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is one of maybe my all-time favorite zombie movie. It created what they refer to as the rom-com the romantic comedy with zombies genre. It's bloody hilarious. It put those 3 guys on North American audiences' map. It's brilliant, and it is their best film, I think. But I think a lot of people overlook Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz is a really, really great movie if you have not had a chance to check that out. So I'm glad you brought that one up. All right, what's next?
The Tipsy Pirate writes, hey, John, the Rugby World Cup is on. I'm always surprised with the similarities. By the way, I think it means between that and American football. More from your part of the world don't follow the game, more so than football. I think Wales will do well. Never write off the New Zealand All Blacks.
The New Zealand All Blacks have one of the most iconic things in all of the world of sports. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat, I believe they call it the haka, where the New Zealand All Blacks do this warrior battle dance.
Weren't they the ones
right? And it's just one of the coolest things you could ever see in sports.
Weren't they the ones in Invictus who they were like the ones they had to overcome, like the South African team? They were like, we have to fight the All Blacks. Not fight, but go against the,
Wasn't that soccer though? Or was that
I
rugby?
thought it was rugby.
Oh God, it's been a while since I watched that. At any rate.
All right.
Oh yeah, the haka.
The haka is what they got, right? One of the absolute coolest, but I will confess, I think I know more about the rules of cricket than I do about rugby. I just know rugby is a really cool looking sport that you got to be a manly man to play. But I don't know anything about the rules of it. And I find cricket less confusing. So I need to learn more about it because, man, just watching, I will watch whenever the New Zealand All Blacks do the haka. I will watch it because it just makes you feel more like a man watching them do it. It's the most awesome thing. All right, what's next?
All right, we got Legends of Tomorrow fan. David Zaslav said in an interview that WBD hasn't taken full advantage of their big IPs like DC. However, a lot of the content that was axed after the merger was in fact from DC. How upset and worried should the remaining DC film TV fans be at the moment?
Only shitty stuff was purged.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you are misusing something, then you are not taking advantage of it, right? Nobody thinks, including David Zaslav, doesn't think, you know what Warner Brothers hasn't done? We haven't made enough DC stuff. Nobody in their right mind would say that. The problem is you're not taking advantage of it because you've put out a lot of shit, right? And also some really, really good stuff, by the way, at the same time. But yeah, misusing it. So yeah, when they cut that stuff, they're doing the absolute right thing, taking advantage of property properly. And, you know, for some things they haven't done enough with, like they haven't done enough with the world of Harry Potter. Like that's a goal. If the recent Harry Potter game, what's it called again? Something of Hogwarts Legacy?
Yeah,
Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah.
Like, if that is any indication, like how that thing just sold like mad, there is a massive hunger out there for Harry Potter content. There really hasn't been much. That's there. On DC, there's clearly been a shit ton of content put out. It's just that a lot of it's been bad. And they need to get around to actually taking advantage of that IP because it's such a rich IP. All right, what's next?
Adolfo with a two-parter. Hi, John and crew. My sister and I are currently visiting Japan on vacation and wanted to thank you for keeping us entertained throughout all various long train rides. Sometimes the trains are so packed together, but listening to the podcast makes it all the more bearable. I wanted to ask what everyone's favorite cuisine is. Mine is Mexican, followed by Indian and Japanese.
I mean, it's no surprise for me. It's Italian. I mean, I grew up in my grandmother's kitchen. My nonna would make the world's greatest Italian food. I'm a bit of an Italian food snob. I've only found 2 restaurants in all of LA whose Italian food actually tastes like Italian. Like a lot of Italian food in LA is an American's attempt at Italian food. And I found 2 restaurants in LA that truly have like awesome, authentic tasting Italian food. But mine's Italian. What about yours, Ray?
Oh, it's got to be Chinese food. I really like Chinese food, and then I think it goes Chinese food, Mexican food, and then American, of course, the burger or whatever.
By the way, you know what I didn't realize until a couple of months ago? Like, you and Ann are clearly Filipino,
Right.
but I did not know, Ann told me, that you guys are actually part Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
What's your grandmother was Chinese?
There's like a little Chinese blood in us. Yeah.
Right. I never knew that before. All right. Jonathan, what about you? Got a favorite cuisine?
Probably Italian, and then, I mean, just because I grew up in Southern California, Mexican would be right up there. But yeah, probably those 2 are at the very top.
All right. What's next?
I'm watching this Haka thing, man. It's crazy.
It's nutty, right? It's great.
There's other teams that actually do responses to it too, which is kind of funny.
All right. What's next?
We got Emma the Murdoch Mystery. Hey, crew, mentioned on the non-Campea open mic that I was going to TIFF for the first time. To clarify, Jonathan, I got the ticket from volunteering with a local mental health
nice.
organization, not TIFF itself. Went to the world premiere of Backspot on Friday and had a good time. It was cool to be in the same room as creatives behind the movie and see they filmed in my hometown of Mississauga. Felt the script could have gone deeper, but enjoyed the performances and just glad to have the experience.
I love Mississauga. I actually dated a girl from Mississauga. I do love Mississauga a lot. Anyway, TIFF is, the Toronto International Film Festival is fantastic. I still remember the first one I ever went to. I was running the movie blog at the time and got invited to one of these big after parties. And I'm not going to say the name, but there was an actress, you know, who at the party, this big after party, got really drunk. And there's a picture of her on my lap sticking her tongue in my ear. And then I won't mention who it was. The other online film journos who were there know exactly what we're talking about. It is a great party festival. The biggest movies play there. The biggest stars go there. It's just an enormous, fantastic thing. If you can only go to one film festival, I do highly recommend that it be the Toronto International Film Festival.
Were you like, if I let you stick your tongue in my ear?
Hey, if I asked you, no, let me rephrase. If I let you stick a good, kudos to anybody who knows what movie reference that is.
Aren't you the star of the Incredible Hulk?
That's exactly what you said.
Legend says she was wearing a trench coat.
All right, what's next?
Tack writes, got Baldur's Gate 3, and after playing 30 hours, it's safe to say Zelda has competition for Game of the Year. Considering how many copies it sold, 5.2 million, I wonder if Jonathan was right, and they should have kept D&D name off the movie like they did here. I don't know if it would have mattered.
No, I think
game.
what so many people are lauding, why I am loving this game is because it truly is D&D. It's truly the D&D experience in a video game format. I am passionately I haven't loved a video game the way I've been loving this game in a long time. It's absolutely fantastic. If you and you don't have to know D&D to be able to play it. But if you do know D&D, you're going to feel right at home in this thing. It's expansive. It's brilliant. You know, a lot of games will say the choices you make will have consequences later, but they really don't. I mean, it's just a minor little thing. There is stuff in this game that you will do during the first tutorial part of the game that like 25 hours into it, you'll run into a consequence of that decision you made then. And it's always, every decision has consequences. The mechanics are fantastic. It's just a brilliant game. All right, what's next?
Okay, moving on to supers. Sorry. Okay. Who's your favorite male and female?
Who's writing this?
Oh, what's that? Oh, Pookie Power. Sorry.
Pookie Power.
Who's your favorite male and female WWE star? Personally, mine will most likely always be John Cena and Alexa Bliss.
Oh man, cool, man. Same here. Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss. Was
My all-time favorite female star was probably a little Canadian connection. It's probably Trish Stratus. Although Lita,
Lita
back
was
in the
great,
Hardy Boys days, was like fire. She was so good. And you know who else is really good? What's her name? The Japanese fighter. She has one name.
I want to say Asuka.
Hey, this has been really fun.
Asuka, right? But it's Asuka.
Yeah.
We watched her at one of the live events. That girl's an amazing wrestler. My all-time favorite wrestler, though, goes all the way back. It's when he was still known as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. It's Triple H.
Yeah.
He was my all-time favorite. By the way, a lot of people have been writing into me about, John, did you see AEW, that Wembley Stadium in England? You guys know I know Nigel McGuinness. Ray and I know Nigel.
Right.
He's been dating Ann's best friend Corey for a long, long, long time. He's been at our house many times. I think I'm going to bring Nigel on to just talk about. Nigel's also a magician.
Yeah.
And he puts, when these big wrestling events go on, he goes to the towns, but then he also will put on a magic show in those towns. He's a former wrestler himself. And I think I'm going to bring Nigel on just to talk a little, because I know there's a lot of people, I don't follow wrestling really closely anymore, but I know there's a lot of people who watch our show that do. And I thought maybe some of you guys would get a kick out of Nigel, who now does the play-by-play he does the color commentary and everything for AEW.
Yep.
And he used to do it for WWE as well. And I thought maybe some of you guys would get a kick out of it if I brought Nigel on. Anyway. All right, what's next?
All right, we got CJ Rebirth. He writes, I'm sad after finally having watched Romeo Must Die because I loved Aaliyah's scene with Jet Li, and it sucks she didn't get to do more movies.
No, I mean, Aaliyah's definitely one of those, we lost them way too young.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of, because she had a future. She completely had I'm not saying she was going to win multiple Academy Awards, but she had a very, very bright future ahead of her, and that is one of the sadder stories. One of the sadder stories in movies. All right, guys, listen. We still have a few more to get to, but before we do, we're going to take one more break right now and thank a couple of more sponsors of today's episode, our friends at DraftKings and Mint Mobile. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this episode, DraftKings. Football is back and in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on all the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. So get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use the code CAMPEA to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code CAMPEA. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at DraftKings and Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode. All right, guys, let's get to the rest of your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got next?
We got King Daddy Go Niners, baby.
Hey, I think we missed one there too.
We did, yeah.
Listen, I think the Niners are going to be very, very exciting to watch. I mean, it almost was unfair when they got Christian McCaffrey. I mean, it was almost unfair. This is going to be a fun team to watch all year. They're one of the reasons why I got NFL Sunday ticket this year. I've never had it before. I decided to get it this year, but I want to be able to tune in and watch some Niner games this year.
You know, it must be nice to have an owner that likes to spend money.
All right, what's
Let's
next?
go.
John Redcorn said, not going to lie, I feel bad for Giants fans.
Did you watch any of that game last night?
Oh, I didn't watch anything because I knew.
Okay. So the Dallas Cowboys are playing the New York Giants. No team I hate more than the Dallas Cowboys. I don't really like the Giants either, but I was cheering for them last night. So they start by getting the first possession. The Giants march down the field and they get ready to kick a field goal. And they kick it. It gets blocked. Dallas picks up the block and runs it all the way back for a touchdown.
Sign of the night. Was that a sign of the night to come?
Yep. I think the final score was 40-0. They had a pick six. They had like a kick return for a touchdown.
Oh, man.
Everything that could go wrong for the Giants yesterday went wrong. By the way, not a good start for the Bengals either, brother.
Oh, yeah, I know.
The Bengals looked awful. They didn't just lose. They looked really bad yesterday. So they got to turn things around. All right, what's next?
We got Rampage Predacon who says, go Texans. Let's get that 6-11 record, baby. Man, a lot of football.
Yeah, that's a team that really, I mean, look, they've been in the doghouse for a while. They've made some nice moves. This is not going to be the year, but can they start to turn things around this year? That's what everybody's going to be looking for. All right, what's next?
We got John Redcorn. Wish I was more excited for the Marvels. The trailers aren't doing it for me. Hope it's good, but I have some concerns, especially after Secret Invasion.
Couple things. Completely different group of people making that movie than the people who made Secret Invasion. Just one thing to keep in mind. Rob and I were both with you on the trailers. They had to, but this newest one was actually quite good. And the one thing that has me really excited for the Marvels is just Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. That show, I think, is the second best show that they've had on Disney Plus. I loved it passionately. So that's the one thing that's got me excited for it. And again, I thought the newest trailer was actually quite good compared to the other ones they had. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. All right, what's next?
Orlando Orrego writes, hey, John, Peacock was offered to Comcast cable members, but they stopped it recently. Now with Disney News, maybe NBC Universal will go back to it.
Again, it looks like everything's going in reverse. That announcement this morning of Disney Plus is going, if you are a cable subscriber to Spectrum Charter, you're just going to have Disney Plus on it. You don't have to go out and subscribe to Disney Plus separately. It's just going to be part of your package. The ad-supported one, granted, but still, it's going to be all there. And will this, Rob and I discussed this morning, will it be the first domino that falls, or will it be an isolated event? So we'll have to see, but it's really fascinating what's happening there right now. All right, what's next?
Fangley71 writes, been trying to play Baldur's Gate, but damn, I'm bad. I swear I die every single enemy encounter. Got any tips? Be better.
Well, I mean, the first thing I would suggest is if you're starting the game, it offers you 3 difficulty levels, right? Your easy, medium, hard. Make sure you're doing the easy one.
I do the easiest one.
The biggest tip, though, this is the first tip you'll hear every person who plays Dungeons and Dragons or Baldur's Gate. Use all your actions. You get a main action, you get a bonus action, and you get a movement. Make sure you're utilizing your actions. And because I think that's the one thing a lot of people don't just say, oh, I get an attack, and they do an attack, and then they don't take advantage of the bonus action. They don't take advantage of their movement. Use the environment around you. I got stuck very early in the game of this one part, and then I realized, oh, all these bad guys are standing around these kegs of gunpowder. Throw a fireball at those kegs, and I'll blow them all up. Simple, right? So pay attention to the environment and use all your actions. That's the best advice I can give right now.
Also, play all you can in 2 hours, because if you ask for a refund before the 2 hours, then you'll most likely get it on Steam. You have 2 hours to get a refund. So try the game. If it's not for you,
you're not going to need a refund. It is the best video game that's come out in years.
Yeah, I know.
It's the best video game that's come out in years.
I just wish there's controller support.
All right, what's next?
Fame Blazes back. What happened to Star Wars Skeleton Crew? I thought it was supposed to come out this fall, but haven't heard anything about it for a while.
I don't remember.
Let me actually check the last update on that thing.
Yeah, I don't remember anything official saying it was supposed to come out in fall. There might have been. I don't ever recall actually knowing what the release date of it was. I know it's shot. I believe they finished the photography of it before the actors' strike happened.
This says it's expected between December or early 24.
Okay, so yeah, we're probably going to get some news on it fairly soon, I would expect. But again, you got John Watts doing it, the guy who directed the 3 Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland. So and you got Jude Law in there. I'm actually expecting some pretty good things from that show. So fingers crossed. All right, what's next?
Didier Fleurisme. I butchered that. I'm sorry. It's probably Didier or something. I'm sorry. The interim agreements are not waivers. They are agreements with smaller production companies that agree to the terms that SAG proposed.
There are both. There are interim agreements and there are waivers. There are both. Those are 2 things. And again, it's just, I remember when they announced that certain projects like A24, and by the way, I am somebody who is in agreement with the special waivers and the agreements. I am somebody who's in support of those. But I remember when they first started talking about that, a lot of actors and a lot of writers said, are we on strike or are we not? Because we've just basically created a scenario where some people in our union get to go out, they get to go to work, they get to earn an income, they get to go out and promote their projects while the rest of us don't. And it caused some, again, and I'm somebody who's in favor of it. I am. But it caused some people within the unions to go, I think that's something that all the unions are going to have to sit down and really figure out and have some serious discussions amongst their leadership, amongst their membership, like after this strike is done, and come to some real clear understanding about, okay, if a strike ever happens again, God forbid, but if it does, let's work out what our rules about how we conduct ourselves are going to be. Are we as Ray would say, 100% like, no, actors are on strike, we do not work. As if any of us aren't working, none of us are working. Or do we investigate even more into these special arrangements, into waivers, stuff like that? It's something they have to be more clear about, because clearly a lot of their own membership were pretty unclear about the rules were going to be, and some of them didn't react well to it. And I get why, even though I agree with it. But anyway, all right, what's next?
We've got Joe Adonis T. Hi, John, and Ray. John, that always throws me off. Jonathan, have you been exploring the planets yet? The part that I'm enjoying is a lot of shipbuilding. How about you, man?
What's the name of the game? Starfield?
Starfield.
Yeah, how is that game so far?
I wish I knew.
You know what?
To be fair, I could be playing it on my PC,
right?
And I might break down and do that, but I don't have I have an Xbox One X, and I want to get it on the Xbox Series X, which is the latest, right? The latest console of Xbox.
But you don't have a Series X.
I don't have the latest the console.
But wait, can you buy it now and then not download it onto your new console?
You know what? You could.
I could, but
yeah.
But I mean, if I get desperate, I'll just do it on PC. if I have to.
You're at the mercy of the
That's how I would play it anyway.
yeah,
Probably
your
is on
network
PC.
if you do it on Game Pass. But the graphics are decent enough on Game Pass or even whatever John's using. What is it called? GeForce Now?
Yeah.
You can even do
yeah.
that.
But I haven't played Starfield yet. I want to get through Baldur's Gate. All my whatever gaming time I have available to me, I'm using playing Baldur's Gate right now.
I was reading about it, and a lot of people are saying you got to invest in it a little bit for the game to open up. I
Sure,
hear,
that's all Bethesda.
I hear,
That's every Bethesda game.
I hear maybe after 30
Skyrim.
hours, that's when the game actually becomes game of the year material. After 30 hours, man.
See, that's when most games should be wrapping up.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, but,
But-
those games like
Yeah.
Skyrim, Oblivion,
I get it.
I actually just started playing because I needed to get a fix. I just restarted Fallout 4. And it's the same. They're massive, so they take
There's so many things to do,
hours.
so many
Yeah.
things to make. Build your own house, build your own weapons, build your own ship.
But man, one of the things I love
Ugh.
about Baldur's Gate, the first moment you're in the act, the game starts
Yeah.
with you're on a lithid ship that crashes. You got to fight your way out. You've been infected. You got, and it's just like right away you're bang right
Different-
into the narrative, right into the
Different
story.
strokes
I
for
love it.
different folks, whatever you enjoy.
All right, what's next?
Simon Blakemore says, last month I watched Enter the Dragon at the cinema before the film
Nice.
started. Bruce Lee's daughter came on and introduced the film and talked about her dad and other stuff. I thought it was really a nice touch. That is cool because I've seen these like re-releases and I don't remember them ever doing that.
Well, one of the nice things that I started to appreciate right away when I moved to Los Angeles, when I came out to LA from Canada, one of the things that I really learned to appreciate really quickly was that there are often these special screenings. I remember one of the first ones was one of the greatest comedies of all time, Dustin Hoffman's Tootsie. They played it at the ArcLight Cinema, and they had the special event where they were playing Tootsie, and they had Dustin Hoffman, the film's director, one of the film's writers, were there to do a Q&A afterwards. And I'm like, what? To me, it's like one of the greatest things ever. And those types of events happen around LA a lot. And when you can go to a screening, and even if it's somebody who wasn't in the movie themselves, but connected to it, like Bruce Lee's daughter, it adds a depth to that experience of watching that movie when you're there with somebody who either made it or somebody who was a family member of a legend that did it. I love that sort of thing. I think that's great. All right, what's next?
Andy writes, for all the trouble that the DCEU had winning audience over, they've managed to change public perception of Aquaman from being a joke to a badass. He's probably the best part of this.
No, 100% they did, because a lot of people, I mean, even Family Guy would make jokes about how people looked at Aquaman. Like I even all my friends used to, when I was a kid is when they made the first big change with Aquaman. It was when I was a kid that they made the change where Aquaman suddenly had this scraggly beard and this long hair, and he had lost one of his hands, and he replaced one of his hands with a big hook.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's like, suddenly Aquaman was really cool. And I still never really read Aquaman until the new 52 Aquaman came out. And I had some friends of mine recommend that I check it out. And I really did like that Aquaman run. But yeah, what they did with that first Aquaman movie, what they did with Jason Momoa's Aquaman in the DCU, really did turn perception of Aquaman around. Like it really did. All right, what's next?
Chris Hunt writes, during the last strike, Conan brought back his show without writers, and one of the segments was, how long will this wedding ring spin on this desk? Which he could pull off.
Wait, no, but is that true? Did Conan bring back the show while the writer's strike was going on?
He said during the last strike, so I'm not sure.
I believe he did. I believe he did do it without the writers for a period of time.
I'd have to look into that. But, and again, listen, we're not talking about a scripted show. We are literally talking about a talk show who, again, let me repeat, is better if you have writers, but does not need writers in order to happen.
Yeah.
It's just,
and my thing too, on two counts. One, they said, oh, well, you're crossing lines. Well, if they were picketing that day, fine. They did that same thing with like Daredevil, right? They wouldn't cross the picket line because they were there on that day. But when they said, oh, well, while actors are out striking, they're not striking every day. And not every actor is out striking every day. They also do other stuff because they still have to pay rent.
they're striking every day. They're just not picketing every day.
Picketing every day.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like no one stopped. The actors didn't stop working when SAG was on strike, but they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that drives me nuts when it was like, well, you know, like visual effects people, they shouldn't be working because you got to show solidarity and support for the writers and actors. It's like, do you guys forget that the writers were on strike and all the actors were still working? The actors kept right on working till it was time for their union to strike. So don't stir that hornet's nest. That's a totally different thing. All right, what's next?
Okay, we've got Simon Blakemore who writes, and Enter the Dragon was amazing to see on the big screen, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, listen, it's a rare privilege when there's a movie that maybe was a little bit out before your time, and then you get to go see it on the big screen for the first time.
I love that they're doing all these anniversary things.
Yeah, I really do like that a lot. It particularly, I mean, that became more in style when the pandemic was still kind of going on. There was no movies to put in theaters and so, and I mean, first of all, most of the pandemic, the theaters were closed, but even once the theaters were allowed to start opening again, they had no product. And now with the strikes, it's come back. But I still like that idea that every once in a while, even if you do have a full slate of movies, have these special anniversary, special screenings. It's just always great to watch great classic movies on the big screen when you get a chance. All right, what's next?
Okay, we've got Sam Fisher. Hot Fuzz is better than Sean, in my opinion.
Hey, that's the beautiful thing about, I mean, I completely disagree. But that is the beautiful thing about movies, man. All of them hit us in different ways. And if Hot Fuzz hits, and I think Hot Fuzz is great, but if Hot Fuzz hits you in such a way that it made an even bigger impression than Shaun of the Dead, that's awesome. For me, by a mile, it's Shaun of the Dead. But Hot Fuzz is fantastic. All right. What's next?
Yang writes, hi, John. Happy Monday. Is it me or shouldn't the union start negotiating with the AM?
He probably means
PTP, yeah, but it
AMPTP.
threw me off because I'm reading it, but I know what it is. A year before contracts expired, working for a corporation, many of our deals are negotiated up to a year before.
Oh no, the unions are stupid in this regard. You know, I told you I was speaking to a friend of mine who's part of the DGA, the Directors Guild of America, and you guys remember the DGA got a deal done. They have a done deal. They got a deal done where the writers and the actors weren't able to. Now listen, it's not apples to apples comparison. Each situation is unique. I'm not trying to pretend like it isn't. But I remember, and I was like, Chris, who was a member of SAG, was on, and we're like, yeah, I remember like 2 weeks before the strike started, and them announcing, or maybe 3 weeks before the strike started, and saying, oh yeah, the Actors Guild contract and agreement expires on this date, and they're going to start negotiations about, I think it was 10 days. They're going to start negotiations 10 days before their contract expired and when the strike was going to happen initially. They eventually pushed the strike off another week, but then the strike happened, right? 10 days.
I think they must have honestly and naively thought, of course we're going to get something hashed out. They're not going to let us strike. They, you know.
No, I was with you, especially when they said, you know what? Because the deadline came and then the actors said, you know what? We're making progress, so we're going to extend out the deadline an extra week.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, well, they must be getting close to a deal. So I was like you. I was completely naive, totally thought they were going to do it. But I was talking to a friend of mine in the DJ, and I remember asking them, I said, well, how come you guys were able to get a deal done? Like when the others couldn't? He said, because we've been talking to them for a year. He said, directors have actually been quietly talking and working out details and working out agreements for a year. He said, do you think we agreed on a bunch of things the first day we sat down? No, we had a lot of differences and it took months, but we've been talking about it for a year behind closed doors. And so when it came time to get the deal done, we had been through everything. We had covered all the bases and we were able to come to an agreement. Why the Actors Guild didn't start negotiating. Again, I'm only taking this based on their own statements. Like maybe they were talking to them 6 months in advance, but by their own press release, they started negotiations 10 days before the deadline. How stupid you got to be to do that? Why aren't you just 5 months before the deadline? Hey, so-and-so, it's me from the Screen Actors Guild. Let's get together for lunch and just on some napkins, write out what our general issues are. And let's just get the conversation started. Like, I don't understand that. That to me is just absolutely confounding. Like you're trying to come up with these details and deals that is going to affect hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, thousands and thousands of people and all that kind of stuff. And you start talking about it 10 days before you're supposed to go on strike. I'm sorry, that's idiocy. That's idiocy on the part of SAG. That's idiocy on the part of the studios. I mean, these guys should have been talking to each other like long before this freaking deal. And I hope that once ever a new deal, remember, these new deals are going to last 3 years. So whenever they strike a new deal, I hope when they're sitting at the table and finally signing the deal, after months of strikes, after people have lost unspoken amounts of, employment revenue, after all the hardship that's been helped, I hope as they're sitting down signing their deals, the two reps look at each other and say, can we agree that maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years before the expiration, let's start talking behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Let's just start talking a little bit early, shall we? A little bit earlier this time? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they'll get the votes for another strike if it were happening in 3 years after this is up. I don't think the union members will vote for a strike because 3 years from now they don't want to relive this.
Well, it depends on how bad the studios are trying to screw them, right?
Yeah, of course.
Never underestimate how bad the studios will try to screw you.
That's all things being equal.
Oh, yes, all things being equal. But I don't think look, when you go through something like that, there's a reason there hasn't been a strike in so long. It's because even though all these agreements only last 3 years, they've kept coming to because they all remember the damage done by the last round of strikes, right? And like the unions only want to strike. The unions don't want to strike. They only strike because they feel that what's being put on the table from them is so bad, they have no choice but to strike. The studios don't want to have a strike going on, but they'll let a strike happen if they feel that, from their point of view, they feel that the terms coming at them are so bad. Like, so there's a reason, but then people get PTSD and they don't want to have another strike. And let's just hope that once they get this one agreed upon and solved and settled, they agree, let's start talking a lot more in advance this time to make sure this does not happen again. That's just kind of my thought. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow for all the stuff we got going on. By the way, guys, just so you know, we have a podcast version of Open Mic as well. And it's a part of the John Campea Show podcast feed. If you just go and subscribe to the John Campea Show podcast feed, you will get both the podcast feed of the John Campea Show and Open Mic every single day. So the next time you're at work, you're commuting, you're in the gym, and you need an audio only version, make sure you subscribe to that podcast feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. All right, so for the guys in the room, Ray Ora.
Hey, see you later.
Jonathan Voico.
Until tomorrow.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.